Once again, we are here at It's a DS Thing podcast. If you have followed us in our Adulting 101 series, we have touched so many good and important topics, and we continue our series. And of course, this time I am joined by an amazing friend, a wonderful person, current nurse, mom of two wonderful kids. And we are going to touch our topic in identity and how identity affects or helps through our jobs. And we're going to dig into this. It's going to be an amazing conversation. And that's why right now I'm gonna present to you our friend Araceli Vega. Thank you so much, Araceli, for being here with us, for joining us. I know you have a really busy schedule, like we all do, especially with two kids. But I want you just so people could know you. I mean, I know you. We've been friends for years. We met at school. We did so many things together. But I really want others peoples to know you just like in a couple of sentences, something about you.
Well, hello. I think of myself as an honorary DS.
Oh yes,
We
yes.
spend a lot of our time in college at your house with your
Hmm.
family, and I have those very good memories. And
Yes.
just, just a little bit about myself. Like Janet said, I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a nurse. I'm an RN. I work med surge at the hospital, and I've kind of done a little bit of everything in my roles since graduating college. I've been a stay at home mom, I've been full time as a nurse, and now I get to live, I think, the best of both worlds. I'm
Yes.
working like part time, and so I get to be at work and
Nice.
be at home. And I think that's kind of like my sweet spot, and I've been enjoying it very much.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And we actually graduated the same year. I, as you guys already know, communication major, and the complete opposite, nursing. And Araceli with a nursing major, I always admired her so much, so committed to that field, and we are so glad to have her because I remember, let me tell you guys, during canvassing, we got to spend so many times together and slept, like under the same room, and just the conversations that we had were just so amazing. And I learned so much from this girl. When it came to conversations, it was so hard to go to sleep because they were so good and amazing. And I'm sure this is not going to be the exception. So let's start digging into our basic topic, which is identity. And identity is such a big role in our life. It what defines us, who we are, where we come from, where we're going. And we could say identity might shift. We're not the person that we were probably 10 years ago when we were teenagers. Hopefully, we have changed. And a lot of things have to do with the environment we live at, where we're at, if we have been working around in what field we've been working. Um, Araceli, a mom is such a different role from a student. I'm sure she has gone through all these changes as well. So identity is like a package, and many times it's confused with personality, character and identity. And recently I learned it's like a package because all of that is included within us. And identity is very important because like they say, one of the most if the only thing we're taking to heaven is our character. And so it's very important that we define that identity. And I don't know how accurate this is, but I want to say that during our teenage years is when our identity is forming. Like at the beginning, like we're trying to learn who we are, where we're going, what we want to do in life, what we want to study, and kind of take that path, even though, there's a lot of years ahead of us and we could change in the way, says the person that changed her major like 5 times. But our identity could also be kind of shifted depending on the role or in our jobs. So, our identity, Araceli, how do you think our job affects our identity as an adult?
Well, I like to think of, like you said, identity is a package. And at the same time, what I really like about identity is it's who we are as individuals, but also
Mhm.
as a member of a social group. So, how we fit in, like where we belong,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then how other people around us, like in that social group, perceive us. Like we can identify as this or that.
Mhm.
For me specifically, like I am a nurse. Like when
Yes.
we met, I was in nursing school, so I think of identity as it can be a really big part of how we see ourselves, and I think it's closely related to how much time you spend in a certain environment or in how much effort like you put into school. Like for example, for me, I had a lot of very intensive
Oh,
uh,
yes.
time consuming classes and
Yes.
calls and all that time I spent in that environment kind of
Mhm.
helped me identify as a nurse. So since nursing school, like you feel already part of this kind of like nursing profession, nursing community, and
Mhm.
just that time element is really important of how much time you spent in that environment. And so I identify, as a nurse, I get all the inside jokes that nurses have, all the memes and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
I have that common shared experience, so I can
Yes.
identify with that.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, I'm also a mother. Like I mentioned
Mhm.
before, I did, graduate. I got my RN license and everything, but
Yes.
because of, just life events, I didn't actually go into the workforce. I didn't
Yeah.
start my career right away. So I actually became a mother first, and I did that for a long time. Just stay at home mom, homemaker, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that time spent doing that also helps me identify as a mother. Like I can get all the inside jokes and all the shared common experiences of
Mhm.
motherhood. Like I can understand it. Like I've lived it. Like I can identify with that group as well. I'm a mother. And it just makes me think of like identity in our workplace, even us, both of us, like we're Mexican Americans, like we
Oh,
identify
yeah.
as part of social ethnic group, and we get all the inside jokes, the Spanglish,
Uh-huh.
like, things that only
Mhm.
we can understand because we're part of this
Oh,
like
yeah.
shared experience. And I think that in the workplace, that that is really enriched, by how much time you spend there with your coworkers, with the people. It influences you, like your
Yes.
identity, who you perceive yourself to be. But at the same time, I think it also um, can be dangerous when you let it influence you too much, to where you see yourself as just this one thing. And if
Mhm.
when we think about success, if we don't think we're successful in our workplace, it can really damage our sense of self, our, you know,
Yes.
happiness, kind of how we derive joy from our job or how we
Mhm.
have an outlook on life, like can be very, very hurtful and negative.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what you think about identity in the workplace, and do you agree like it's the sense of time is really important? Like if you spend a lot of time at your workplace, it becomes like a second home, or those
True.
coworkers become like a second family. So your identity as member of that group is very important. It becomes a big
Mhm.
important part of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, you touched so many good points that I completely agree. I completely agree because and I think God is so wise. And I'm so glad things happened the way they did. At least for me in my experience is I graduated from college, I had no break and I had a job already. That job lasted for a year and a half, and I had to come back. But as I came back, I didn't have my dream job. I didn't have, what I wanted in life, not even like anything to do with communications. But I am so glad that God allowed me to see that time because that time I got to know who Janet is without a job. her talents, to know what to do with her time, who she truly is. And I think you experienced something similar. You experienced Araceli as a mom, and you embrace that and you love that and you learn that aspect of yourself, and then you got the opportunity to love and experiment what you studied for, and those all those effortless nights of study and just exam through exam, you finally got your moment. And I feel that God is very wise because you touched like such a powerful point. Identity is like a bunch of things that compose who we are. You say your culture, your personality, your job, your family, so many things. But whenever one of those takes over who we are, I think that that's a very risky territory that we are touching. That is because I've read in the past that your identity should be defined on something that is not temporary. And how many of us, whenever we have either a position or, like a job, or even the role of a mom, like you were mentioning, the day that finishes doesn't mean that we're done. And I think that's what happens to many of our young people, or to many of our youth, is that they focus so much on Janet is a Texas conference worker. That's what Janet is. And that's not what Janet is. She's more than the Texas conference worker. That if one day I don't work for the Texas conference, I'm still Janet. I'm still a person and I still know who I am. Or if Araceli, she one day she's not a nurse anymore. She's still Araceli. And so when we focus on something that has an end, it's when depression hits, when we can't find ourselves, when we're lost. And I think we need to be so careful when we come to earthly things. I think the Bible is so good at explaining those things that we really need to pay attention and say, okay, I need my identity to be defined by something eternal, by me being somebody that's kind, somebody that's grateful, somebody. And there's a powerful verse in the Bible that talks about the things that should really identify us as who we are, which at the end of the day, we're all children of God. But when we focus on the other one, is where we say, okay, because if that's gone, because our job could end, sadly, one day they tell us, you're out, and you're out. But I think balance is key. The balance that we have to take, even between, and I'm sure you're great at this, even between the balance of being a mom and being a nurse. You said it yourself, the best of both worlds. But there has to be a balance, because when you shift one more than the other, I can't imagine how stressful that could be. So I really really admire that you're able to just do both of those things so good. And I know you're not perfect, and I know you have your struggles, and that it's hard. But let me tell you, not only is she a mom and a nurse, but she's also a pastor's wife, which that comes with a whole new package of things. So when it comes to identity, I don't know if it has happened to you before. Maybe as a pastor's wife it has, but for me, when I got here to SWAU, my sister came here as a student first, and I did. And so most of the people knew her, and every time everyone would tell me, "Oh, Giselle's sister." Like, they didn't know my name. It's like, "Giselle's sister." And I was like, "I have a name, like, I'm not just only Giselle's sister." And so I think, like, it can be identity plays a role when it comes to that. Like, I'm not just the pastor's wife. I am a person by myself as well. And so how many times do we feel like, okay, I am a person, I need to express who I am, and and define, and for you to know really who I am. But please, I also have an identity. Have you experienced something like that in your role?
Yes, of course. I think especially as a mom, sometimes we kind of get left in the background. And also,
Yeah.
as a pastor's wife, like my husband is kind of the front and center, and you know
Mhm.
him. You're also friends
Oh,
with him,
yes.
and he's very outgoing. And so
Mhm.
a lot of the times I've been known as, Samuel's wife, or the pastor's wife, or
Yeah.
ex. And so that can get, a little frustrating. So as I
Yes.
transition into the workplace, like, just thinking again about identity in the workplace, I feel like it was a positive change, a place where people
Okay.
know me, they don't know my family, like my husband, like it's somewhere where I can go and be myself, like a part of myself.
Yeah.
I think we kind of touched earlier about these kind of temporal things associated with our identity.
Yeah.
And of course, they're important. Like we want to see the results of our work. Like as a mom, I didn't have that like evidence,
Mhm.
even though it's temporal and it will pass away. Like there's these kind of like evidences of kind of like a validation of you don't get a paycheck. You
True.
don't. Um, See like the end result of your project because
Mhm.
the work is put into your kids and you're not going to see the results until years from now or decades from now. And
Yeah.
so of course, like those things are real needs. Like you want to be validated. We have, we have need of a paycheck and provide for our basic necessities.
Mhm.
But I like that you touched on the topic of our goal is to lay up treasures in heaven, like
Yeah.
where things won't pass away. And
Mhm.
kind of like our true identity. Uh, our workplace is just one of the settings in which we carry that out, right?
Yes.
It shouldn't define our purpose or our worth because, like you said, if you lose the job or the
Mhm.
relationship that you're in or whatever it is, it it will kind of leave you where you don't know who you are. Like it will really
Mhm.
shatter your world. And so our purpose, our identity should come from God. And I feel like going from a stay-at-home mom place or like there was a lot of positive changes and at the same
Yeah.
time like you said we have to have that balance where we can know that our identity our worth doesn't come from the job, whether
Mhm.
it's motherhood or nursing or whatever role you're in, but it comes from God. Like
Yeah.
that's what our identity, our purpose, our worth comes from being a child of God, like you said. And so I really think that that's our anchor. Like,
Yes.
we can change, and it's good to change, like in a positive way.
Mhm.
Um, Personal growth and development.
Yeah.
Not the same people we were, when we were 15
Mhm.
or 25. So that's a good change, a positive change. But we still have something that anchors us, that
Yes.
kind of keeps us grounded where no matter what happens, I really like that analogy of the anchor because no matter which way the water takes you, you still have that to ground you. Your
Yes.
worth as a child of God, your purpose, we trust that God has good plans for us, that He has good things for us. And whether
Mhm.
it's our job, whether our roles change, we can trust that it's a good, it will be good in the end. Like God's plans for us are good, and the purpose that He wants us to accomplish is still good. So
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's really important.
Of course. Yes, and, as you were mentioning all of that, I was thinking of if our identity is to be children of God, first of all, we have to know who God is. I said at the beginning that we need to know where we come from and where we're going. And if we're not sure of those things, is probably because our identity is still not really like that anchor that you mentioned. And and that's why it's so important to connect with the source of our identity. And if we want God to be, like we're representatives of God and we want him to define our identity, we really have to know who he is in first place. Like what's God's identity? Our identity for Christ or our identity defined by God should always remain the same. Now, if it's not, I think that's an important factor that we need to check ourselves and see what truly, like what truly defines us. Because sometimes like we said, maybe our position or our a relationship is defining us and we don't even notice. We just don't even notice. And so I think it's very important that, okay, am I defining my life based on what somebody thinks, on what a relationship with this person tells me to do, or am I really defining myself and saying, "This is Janet and her beliefs," because another one is beliefs. Beliefs is something that is so important in your identity, and if those are constantly moving, I mean, something's wrong. That is not your identity yet, and you have to make sure you have that in mind. And so this is just such a deep topic where it could go so many ways, relationships, positions, jobs, but we want I'm not going to sidetrack myself because I always do that. But we want to focus, on our job. How can my identity be be so powerful that somebody else sees me on a daily basis? You said that sometimes we spend more time on our job, probably, depending. And I am so guilty because I have a full-time job. I spend more time at work than at my house. Um, but how is it that our identity could make an impact on someone else without us even expressing anything, just simply just the way we are, um, impact somebody else's identity and say, wow, who is this person? I don't know if you could probably have some comments over that.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point about living out our true identity. And I think sometimes we're
Yeah.
scared to do that, right?
Hmm.
At work, like sometimes it feels awkward to be the only one. Like you're taking
Yeah.
a lunch break, and then maybe like in a place where it's a secular job, like I
Hmm.
have, you're the only one, praying for your meal, or
Hmm.
like that. So I
Yes.
think we're scared sometimes to live out our true identity, whether it's at
Hmm.
the workplace, because the only thing that changes is the setting, right? Whether it's our workplace, whether we're in a
Yeah.
relationship, whether we're at home or with our family, and so we're scared of rejection, we're scared of failure.
Hmm.
We try to focus on success and what we perceive as success,
Yeah.
and so is our identity strong, like you said? Are we being true to our beliefs, or are we just kind of like
Going with the flow.
we're inconsistent, And
Yeah.
so we live out a consistent identity about, these are my beliefs. Like when I started at my workplace, since the very beginning, I told them like I can't work on Sabbath. Like that's not something that I'm willing to compromise. And so a lot of places were like, okay, we'll respect that, but you have to work every Sunday. And I was like, well,
Hmm.
that's what it takes. And
Yeah.
then thankfully at my job, they also, respected my beliefs, and I don't work Sabbaths. I did have to work a lot of Sundays, but now that I work part time, I can kind of make my own schedule. Like I have a lot more freedom, which I really love. But it's just kind of like you said, people will notice and they'll be curious about why you believe these things. And so it's a way that you can show that in your workplace and not be afraid of bringing your value as a minority group, whether it's, like we talked about Mexican American, we have a specific
Hmm.
kind of like way we view the world, and that can
Yeah.
add value to our workplace. Like we don't have to hide parts of us, whether we're a
Right.
minority group, a minority like religion, like something that's not common, like that's what I think we talked about earlier. We have a purpose that God gave us to be the light of the world, the salt of
Mhm.
the earth, and we can't do that if we're the same as everyone else. So we have to live out our true identity,
Mhm.
be consistent in our beliefs and our values, and just kind of bring that every time, no matter the setting. Even though the setting changes, our identity shouldn't, right?
Yes.
So that's, I think that that anchor analogy is, it's really something that I like, because like it keeps us grounded, right? Our identity, our beliefs, our values, and something that won't change, whether we're wives, mothers,
Mhm.
career women's, whether we retire, right?
Yeah.
a lot of people that don't work and have retired. You
Yeah.
know, whatever you're setting, like your values remain the same.
Mhm.
It's just something that just keeps us from just drifting, right? No matter
Yes.
the circumstances and being victims of our circumstance, we know that we have worth, we have value because we have a strong identity that's consistent.
I think that's the goal, and I think for us is, if whatever we have said, me and Araceli, you have found yourself saying that, oh my, well, I do that, like, oh, my identity is not perfect. I should work in this. Oh my goodness, I am 40 years old, 30 years old, and I'm a failure because I don't have my identity set and I should have it already set. Don't worry. The identity is forming day by day, and neither Ada or me have it all together, and at least I could speak for me. I failed in the past, and I've seen my mistakes and saying, "Man, Janet, what were you thinking?" This is not you. And I think the biggest, I guess, the biggest thing you could do is just realize and say, "I am messing up. This is not who I want myself to be identified as, or I don't want this to be my identity, and I need to make a change. I need to balance things out. Maybe something I struggle with is like I'm a very prone workaholic, and so it could be many times that I define myself by my job. And until recently, thankfully, God showed me that you're like, Janet, you need to make a balance. And it's not about everything about working, and you also have to have other aspects of your life, and you have to work on that. And so if you're like me or any other aspect of your life, and you realize, I need to change, I think the first step is to change, because y- we will have all of our life to see our identity change constantly. And we're not perfect. We're always beings that are growing and changing, and really seeing all these aspects really helps us out. Our whole identity should be God, and we should be like anchored to Him. And whenever you put Him, as part of your identity, it's something that I really, really amazes me when I have the opportunity. I have to say it because I'm always in awe, that when we spend so much time with God, that identity comes automatically. We can't stop it from coming to us. And the way I see it is just the perfect example of Peter. Peter as a disciple, he spent so much time with Jesus. How could he not be like have that those things in him? It came automatically, and sometimes we don't even notice. We spend so much time with God that we start doing all these things, and people start noticing, and we haven't even said a word. It's like, why are you different? Why are you so positive? Why don't you cuss or look mad or act like those other people do? And it's because we're spending constant time with God. So when Peter denied Jesus, everybody knew he was a follower of Jesus because he spent so much time with Jesus. And so wouldn't it be nice that we are not so focused in saying, "Oh, I need to change my identity," but that automatically God changes that identity because we spend so much time with him that
Mhm.
we don't even notice that we don't even, see how does that even happen. But I think the clue and what we want to leave you guys is that there's no perfect identity, but there is an identity that will help you out and that will get you closer to God, and it's simply spending time with Him, and not making the soul, of the definition of who you are one thing, and especially if it's gonna end, because we know everything in this world has an end, and but God has a promise of eternity for us. And so let's just focus our identity in eternity. That's,
Mhm.
that's basically the best thing we could say. But thank you so much, Araceli, for sharing. I don't know if you have any last comments that you want to share, a Bible verse, something that you want to leave us with.
So I think that everything we do stems from who we believe we are. Like
Uh,
that is the genesis, right? The beginning.
mhm.
Um, when we have our identity, who we believe we are, everything else comes out of that. And so recently, I'm also a homeschool mom. So recently, I was reading a little bit more about. I'm very interested in Charlotte Mason's kind of philosophy of homeschooling, and it reminds
Yeah.
me a lot of as Adventists, we also have a lot of influence with advice from Ellen White and things like that. So
Mhm.
they're very like contemporary of each other, so a lot of their advice overlaps. But there
Yeah.
was a specific part of it that I really loved because I was looking for something for my kids, and as always, it ended up being kind of like a lesson for me. And so
Yeah.
we've repeated it a lot with them, and it's something that we've kind of started teaching them. But I feel like it's more of a lesson for me as well,
Wow.
especially about our identity. And so there was like four kind of, I don't know to call them like mantras or kind of
Mhm.
like four affirmations of kind of how to get over the difficulty of not wanting to do something or like not doing the right thing or
Yeah.
just kind of like getting over that kind of
Mhm.
stumbling block. And so these are what they are. So the first one is I am. The second one is I can. The third one is so I am, I can, I should, and I will. So the first one is we repeat it with our kids. I am a gift. I am a child of God. I'm a
Mhm.
gift to my family. In the workplace, it could be I'm a gift to this organization or this place that I work.
Mhm.
I can, like I am capable because of the the power that God vested in me. Like we are
Yes.
capable of doing things. The third is I should, like I have a responsibility of
Mhm.
doing X, Y, Z. And then the last one, I will. I will do the right thing. Like I will
Yes.
make wise choices. I will make good choices. So I really love that everything we do stems from who we believe we are and that I am a child of God. I'm a gift to like our place where we belong, our family, our workplace, whatever it is. Everything else comes out of that. Like I am capable, like I should do this and I will. I will like um I guess fulfill that purpose.
Yes, yes. I think that's so nice that you are talking like that to your children since a very young age, because I think how many of us that when we get all these bad thoughts and we're constantly reminded by the enemy that no, no, you can't do it, you really think you're capable? No, like there's so much people that are better out there, that more talented, have more resources. He's like, no, you're and and Satan uses all of that. But when we start practicing, those words of affirmation that you shared with us, I think it helps us. It helps us to know who we are, where we're going, and like the famous verse of Jeremiah, that God has amazing plans for our life, and we need to believe it, because sometimes you reread these verses but we don't believe it, like in Spanish they would say no nos la creemos, like no nos cae el veinte. We just say, "Oh, it's a nice verse. Oh, this," but it's true. It's true, and we have to believe that it's true, because we serve an amazing God. We serve a God that He wants the best for us. He wants to see us in heaven. He wants the best thing for His children. So don't read the Bible thinking it's just a bunch of phrases and nice words, or just a nice poem, but something that it's really true. And I believe that, those affirmations, we should apply them to ourselves. It doesn't matter your age, we should all apply it, and really believe what we're capable of, knows we are capable of. He decided for us to finish his work instead of the angels. He has
Mhm.
some perfect beings besides him, but he wants us to do it because he believes in us. He believes we are capable of. And so sometimes we're the ones that don't believe. But he's like, I know you're capable of. I know you could do it. And we really have to acknowledge those words and say, yes, if he believes in me, I believe in me, and everything is possible in the name of Christ. So
Yes.
what an awesome way to end this podcast. It has been like a true blessing. Like I say, every time I have a conversation with Araceli, you know, I learn something new and see things in just a different light. And thank you so much, Araceli. Thank you for being part of this podcast and accepting the invitation. I know it's been a blessing to have you, and we're happy, like for your life and where God has brought you through and how He has led your life. Because man, I met this girl when she was just a student. Imagine, and just to see her grow the way she's been growing is just a great joy. I hope it's not the last time. We really enjoy your words and just your advice, other perspectives, and we had this today, and so we're so privileged that you were here with us. But anyways, this has been It's a DS Thing podcast. I just want to remind everybody we have been growing. We are in different platforms. So I know this is all new. I know it's going to take a while for people to get used to it because we have been for a long time and only in Spotify. But now we are in the Apple Podcasts. We also recently launched our YouTube channel. It doesn't have a lot right now. We're starting. We're headed there. But you can enjoy the last episode called "Finding Your Ganas," so which talks about motivation. And if you're not following us on Instagram, what are you doing? Come on, we put a lot of content out there, and so click a follow with the same name at It's a DS Thing podcast. Really simple. We recently started doing devotional reels, which you don't want to miss. And so yeah, it's been a privilege. A lot of things are coming our way. A lot of more topics. We're about concluding pretty soon our adulting series, but we're starting something new. So join us, subscribe, and leave a comment, and let us know how do you identify. What is your identity? What is your identity in your role? We would love to hear also that. And I am still working on my voice, but hopefully next time you'll be able to hear me a little better. Anyways, thank you so much, and join us next time.